Movement is a crucial part of Apex, and the longer Apex has been around, the more movement techniques have surfaced. In this video, I'm going to break down why certain players like Faide are so effective at using movement. We'll talk about why he uses it, how he's able to pull it off, and ultimately, after watching this video, you'll have a better understanding of these techniques, how to combat them, and how to implement some of them into your gameplay. So let's get into it. In this first clip, we have Faide trying to handle a 1v3. And what I want you to really focus on in this is how he's able to constantly reposition himself so that he's never forced to take this fight on this team's terms. You're going to see him engage with these two slightly, then Q and go back up the zip line. I guess it's actually a 1v2 because one player was already down, but I believe he had to knock that first player as well. He takes height, then he drops to low ground because he knows they're chasing them. This constant reposition is great at fooling the enemies into thinking that you're just running, but eventually he's looking for a good spot to turn and burn on them. He gets some decent shots while still repositioning, juking them, flying back up the zip. He gets stopped by the downed player, and now he can just hold them as they go up the zip line. Because he was able to apply some damage while continuing to get to the inevitable spot he wanted to get to, he's able to do less work when it comes to them riding up the zip. See, if he never shot them at all, he would not be able to kill them while they both rode up the zip line around the same time. Like, the guns he has and the damage potential just wouldn't be there. So getting damage on them early while still focusing on, I'm not gonna settle on the fight right here, right now, low ground when I'm in a 1v2. I need some form of separation, and the constant repositioning is key here. Now, he didn't really use any crazy movement per se. He did a mantle jump as he rode up the zipline the first time, but as most of you know, if you use this zipline in Oasis, it will naturally shoot you up onto that second floor if you let it. However, the mantle jump probably got him up there a little bit quicker. One of the things that Faide and other high-level players are really good at are being incredibly knowledgeable about the map and where they are on it at all times. They use the map to their advantage much more than most players do. Now, this next clip is honestly hilarious, so I definitely had to use it. Faide has been a master at using portals to bait enemies into them while putting the other half of the portal off of the map. So he approaches this fight that he's thinking about cleaning up, sets his portal, the Bangalore runs right into it, and she ends up falling off the map. Then he has to quickly find this Pathfinder and get some damage on him, but he's not successful. You'll notice the first thing he does is reposition to a box where he can get an armor swap. He's utilizing fatigue wall bouncing here, and this is allowing for him to make his movement fairly unpredictable while still allowing himself to get some gunshots off on the path. And what he does here is he fatigue wall bounces the door frame, makes Pathfinder extend all of his magazine and forces him to either reload or swap his weapon, and then Faide is able to get a bunch of shots on him while Pathfinder isn't even shooting his gun at all. There's then a new player that emerges. Faide gets an armor swap on height, so the first decision was to climb up to create a sense of evasiveness, but also to get another armor swap. He gets a 63 on the lifeline before she drops, and then he just ends up trolling her, honestly, because this player is definitely new. I have no idea how a player like this is in a lobby with Faide, but yeah, he just ends up trolling her, and she stands no real chance against him. Fatigue wall bounces are something that every player can utilize, whether they play on controller or mouse and keyboard. All it takes is really a double jump up against a wall that you don't actually end up sliding into. This can allow for you to get the wall bounce while you're fairly stationary, or at least not in that slide, and it creates for some unpredictable play that your enemy usually isn't assuming is going to happen. And if you're able to get some gunshots off while doing this wall bounce, well, it's even more in your favor now. Now, it wouldn't be a Faide clip without the zipline building in Fragment. Now, in this one, you can see he's patiently waiting for his moment to strike. There are some people to fight, but he knows that he needs to look for isolation. He finds this catalyst, gets some shots on her to get her low, but he's really utilizing the zipline movement to make it so that wherever she goes, he can just find her. A lot of great players utilize the third and fourth story of this particular building because they can get to them from the balcony, they can get to them from the roof, they can attack them from inside the third floor. There's just so many options here. And the first thing he did was mantle jump to reach the top of the elevator shaft above the zip line. Now, mantle jumps are really dope to look at, but they are tough to do. The way I hold the controller, I am not able to pull this off effectively because I just hold the controller normally. But for other controller players, it's certainly possible, and obviously it's possible on mouse and keyboard. It's basically like a super jump when you're mantling that top floor. Anyways, I won't get into a tutorial on how to do it, but just so you have a rough idea that it is possible for controller and mouse and keyboard players. Now that he downs the catalyst, he looks to instantly reposition because he knows that he's going to leave the scene of the crime, and he utilizes a nice wall mount here off the AC unit to reposition because he knows that the player is probably going to attack from the third or fourth story, so he's going to go down to the second story. As he does this, he's able to reload, wall bounce again, and then quickly look to see where this player is. Finds a horizon, looks like she was fighting someone else, and this is what he has to be a master at: how to deal with two teams fighting around him at once. He doesn't want to be too early because then he'll get focused by both teams, but if he's too late, he misses out on all the fun. Finds a Bangalore, gets a huge shot on her, drops all the way low ground, and then looks to re-engage. Trying to find her, he mantle jumps again. He does find her, she's trying to heal, and she's dropping down. He gets the knock, and he needs to heal. He's bunny hopping, and he's moving, and he's already repositioned to a lower floor. Now he remembers what's going on above him, and he looks to find this player. Look at this spot. He's on the edge of the roof on this little railing. The Wraith has no idea where he is, and this is once again a master of map awareness, guys. Okay? He gets a huge shot on the Wraith, and now he's essentially just playing with his food. Faide loves to take fights in spots that he knows he can utilize movement, slice and dice his opposition, and quickly reposition. He also knows that those spots tend to have limited lines of sight. He's not going to be able to pull this off the same way in a POI like Core on Broken Moon, but he's definitely able to pull this off in certain areas on several different maps, but it's just about finding those opportunities and striking when the iron's hot. Faide also never wants to take a fight where two players or three players are looking at him at once. You'll notice that he's always repositioning when it looks like that's what's happening, and that's because he needs a straight up 1v1, and he also needs a little bit of time after that 1v1 to either heal, reload, armor swap, or do all three sometimes. Every good player knows this, and a lot of players intellectually understand, yeah, I need to split up my enemies, but it takes an incredible amount of discipline to apply this every single situation. And of course, if you've watched his streams or if you've watched Apex at all, you know it's not possible in every single game, but working towards that really creates that discipline and allows for much more breathing room than most players would expect. Now, this last clip is honestly very crazy, but not for the reasons you may think. So first, we've got Faide in the zipline building in the old capital city. He hits a mantle jump off the side zipline to stick a lifeline. But what I love so much about this is he continues firing at the lifeline while falling off the side of the building because he knows he's in line of sight of multiple different enemies. He doesn't want to stand still up there, one clip the lifeline only to die to her teammates. So he winds up doing both, knocking lifeline, falling back down to safety, right next to the zipline so he can re-engage. He goes back up the zipline before they can res the lifeline, but he shoots her so that he can try to thirst her. He doesn't shoot the other two players, but while doing so, he finds himself down the other side of the elevator shaft. He goes down, comes back up, the ash starts to chow him, and while he does that, he can hear the third player reviving lifeline. So he takes the extra time to 1v1 this ash. Now, this ash was completely lost, barely did any damage to him, but it still speaks to Faide's discipline here. He downs ash and then decides to drop back down the zipline. He barely took any damage, so he's just going to reload, and he knows that this team has a lifeline, assuming that she's been revived now. He doesn't want lifeline to walk over to ash and spam res her. So he hits another mantle jump and tap strafes up, downing the lifeline in one shot because she hadn't healed. Now he's in the last 1v1, and it's versus a Revenant. He hits a super glide tap strafe off of this AC unit. Revenant ults. He's completely lost. Faide hits another super glide tap strafe and 1v3s this squad. There was an incredible amount of discipline because he didn't just rush in once he got one down. If you'll notice, he barely took any damage in this whole encounter. And this is something that most players need to study. It's not just about one wave. It's about multiple waves in a BR game like Apex. Faide is generally a master at achieving this. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn all about 8 ways to stop dying in Apex, well, I suggest you check out this video next. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.